glad you guys could join us for another Talk It Over. Again, starting kind of the new series. Again, after 30-second theology last week, which was excellent. But it's always great to start a new series, and he's releasing a new book, which kind of ties into a bit of this message, which of course is always great. So today I have Leanne with me and Dave. Glad you guys could join us.
Good to be here.
Talk it over. And before we dive too far into the message today, how are your weeks been? How have things been going? Anything new and exciting?
I've been doing a lot of research about insulin pumps because I need a new one. So yeah, it's been a lot of looking into which one do I want, why do I want it, which one will be the best for my life and what we've got going on. So that's, about where we're at right now.
That's a big one.
It is. Yeah, and it's kind of like buying a car sight unseen. Like, you don't actually get to try it before you pick it.
There's no test drives.
Well, they do have a 90-day return policy.
But there's no loaner, so to speak.
But there's no loaner that, like, I don't... So if you try it for 90 days, you really don't like it, you can return it, but then you have to go and get retrained on the other options on something else.
Okay. So you're really committing to this.
It's a big commitment, yeah.
They don't give you like a month to try the pump first before doing all the paperwork.
I got a loaner.
Because
that's a big deal. And the whole training piece. So imagine if we had to do that every time we bought a car.
Yeah.
By the way, there's like hours of training you have to do before you can drive this car.
Yeah.
Some of the new ones you almost have to.
Yeah, with all the programming and the touchscreen stuff.
And buttons and everything, you almost need training.
Yeah.
How about for you, Dave? Anything new and exciting?
No. It's just been kind of regular routine stuff. We're doing some fixing stuff up around the house. So we got one son that's out of the house at the moment for school. And while it's emptier, I guess we're in painting mode and clean the place up a little bit, get things put away. So we're doing a bunch of that. And then work is busy all the way around. So that's been good. Lots of good stuff happening.
Yeah.
And just trying to stay warm.
It's been cold the past
It's been a
few
bit cooler,
days.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's all part of the season, right? So you just kind of got to tough through it. I know we all complain about the weather and how cold it gets and this and that, but it is part of it. And of course
But this is El Nino year. This is supposed to be like not a bad summer or winter. I mean, so I was a little disappointed.
Yeah.
My expectations, that's what gets us, right? Expectations were it'd be a little bit warmer.
Yeah, the one thing I've learned about weather, just set the expectation low. less disappointment with it. Keeps it
just enjoy what you got.
Yeah.
That's what Ruth keeps telling us, right? Just enjoy it.
Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But it's exciting. New pump, new sensors, new things. I'm being notified if she's getting low now. So she's got some new sensors. So that's kind of interesting to see how that works. So if she's out exercising, it can alert me if she's low, and then we can use the Apple stuff to find her location if she's not moving or something happens.
Ouch. Okay, you're getting a little extreme there.
It can happen if she goes really low, and it's possible.
It's a risk as a diabetic.
So
right?
You got a plan.
You got a plan. So it's a little safety feature because now I can be notified that she's going low.
Yeah.
And then I can call her, message her right away.
Yeah.
Before I didn't have that option. I just kind of waited, and if time felt it was too long.
Where's Leanne?
Yeah.
Where did she go?
So this way we've got a little bit more security built in with that, which has been good. So. And then, got to do something I never did, play in a proper card tournament, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
First time doing that, so that was kind of fun. Had a lot of fun with that. And
you get to meet some new people.
Yeah, got to meet some new people, had some good conversations with each person I played against, and had a lot of fun with it. I kind of would like to do a little bit more of it, if possible. I do enjoy that, so trying to maybe set something up more regularly at maybe our house, or if I can get out to do maybe something slightly more competitive if I decide I want to do that. But it was a lot of fun. Emmett was really good. He's showing a bit more interest in maybe trying to learn some more card stuff. So should be good. Let us know, guys, in the chat, how your week been, how things been going. Maybe something difficult. Maybe you could use some prayer. Please let us know. But we always, of course, like to hear from you guys what's new and exciting. So our message series is called Think Ahead. And he's done one very similar to this year or 2 years ago.
It was a while ago.
It's been a little bit, but very similar. But this is all, of course, new content. And the message title for today is Do This to Get Closer to God. So with that in your mind, we'll go on to our scripture here from Psalms 27, verse 4. Okay. One thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all of my days, all of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and seek him in his temple. So yeah, excellent message. Really enjoyed it. Kind of brought a few things to light for me that maybe I wasn't quite thinking about. Yeah. So with that, was there a part of it that was impactful for you guys? Something that stood out, or maybe something just kind of maybe reemerged?
Okay, now I want to know what you were thinking about.
What I was thinking about?
Yeah, because now you prompted us and said, there was some new stuff there.
New stuff there. So it's not necessarily new, but it's more of this idea as he was talking about kind of pursuing God, having him come in, and kind of looking at the areas of that relationship with God that maybe for me are lacking, or maybe I thought were good, but maybe thinking about a little more, maybe aren't. Yeah. And certainly one area was being in God's word. That was a difficult one. Yeah. It's been certainly a lot better. I'm at a streak, I think, of 24 or 25 days now in the Bible app. So that's a huge step for me. Being in the Bible plans, which we've done a couple as a church, which has been really good to encourage me to continue in it, has been really good. But then thinking about, okay, so that's starting to go, is there another area? And the other area was the prayer part, and praying for God to be close, to come and have that more intimate relationship in prayer. So for me, that was kind of that standout moment of, okay, maybe I need to start looking into that. Yeah. I know we've talked about taking baby steps, and getting into God's word regularly is a baby step. And once that's kind of into that routine, then it's time to take the next step into the next area. Yeah. And I think that next area is the prayer part, is working on just praying with it.
That's an interesting one, right? Because he talked about King David's whole, like, I yearn for and I desire for. Yep. And I always struggle with that because a lot of the time I don't feel that way at all. And what struck me listening to some of the language from the Psalms more was that maybe it's built in that we all yearn for God. We all have that, but we distract ourselves. We put things in our lives that actually take our attention away. And if they weren't there, that yearning for God, we would recognize it for what it is instead of trying to medicate it
to something else. Yeah.
And so maybe it's not a case of I need to work harder at yearning for God. Maybe it's I need to make space for him and stop trying to put all that other stuff in my life.
All the other distractions. Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does actually make sense. Yep.
And so that was what the first one was, right? The prayer one is about wanting to be with God, wanting to spend time with God.
Yep.
And so, maybe it's about I take things out of my life to make room for God.
Yep.
Even if it's just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think about that when we did the fast. I know we had a couple of people that fasted from at the beginning of the year, like TV or YouTube or social media. And what we heard from them a lot was like, wow, I actually have more time for this stuff and I didn't think I did. And so it was sliding in there, eating up time and eating up focus, and you're not even really aware of it. It just kind of creeps in and does that. And so making space, making time for God, and then you find actually I'm more interested in God as it is. It was good. I really like that too. It's a good challenge because no matter how consistent you are, I think the thing that stood out for me was Craig talking about I'm desperate for God in the sense of there's so much in life I have no control over and I can't handle on my own. I need God. And so there's the yearning for God to spend time with him, but there's also the, like, this is going on, or this has happened in my life, or this I've got coming up. And I desperately need God. Like I need him to be a part of that and recognizing that God is good with that. Like that's actually what the relationship is based around is he knows that we need him. And that then encourages me, don't become complacent in spending time in God's word and in prayer and in meeting together as a church. Like, don't become complacent in that because you desperately need God all the time, literally. And so if you back off on those things, you begin to lose some of that. And so just staying focused on it. I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Because he shared about a lot of really hard stuff that they're going through as a family. It sounds pretty challenging.
And I think for me, it was probably similar to what you guys are saying. Like, intimacy doesn't happen unless you're intentional about it. And how, like, you need to be intentionally seeking after God. And as he was talking, I was thinking, like, when have I been most intimate with God and had just felt his closeness. And those were the times when I was intentionally seeking him because something really difficult was happening in my life. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I might answer one of the questions later on, but like one of the most times that I was most intimate with God was when my son was in the NICU for 2.5 months. And I had a lot of time where I wasn't allowed to hold him or anything. I was just bedside with him. And so I was in the Bible app reading through the Psalms, crying out to God in my heart, and just seeking him, praying to him for healing for our son and for strength. Because there was lots of days where I didn't think I could go on or go back to the hospital to talk to the doctors or like face the news that we knew were coming. Yeah. And so, just relying on God for that strength. And it's something I got very intentional about at the end of the day was when I was walking back from the hospital to where we were staying at the Ronald McDonald House, I would think through, okay, God, where were you today? And maybe it was seeing him in like just another mom's, you can just tell, like you have this, like, I understand it's hard kind of nod look at each other or a conversation, reaching out to meeting a new friend. Yeah. I met a lot of awesome moms that I'm still in contact with just in the elevator or just walking, passing each other in the hallway and saying hi and just connecting intentionally with them. Or people would just, Leanne, I'm feeling for you, so I'm going to send you a gift card that you can use towards coffee, something that you need. So like God was providing for us in lots of ways that I wouldn't have seen unless I was intentionally going after it. And then I would go home afterwards, and then my relationship with God would change because, as Dave was saying, I would get distracted by all of the to-do lists because when Emmett's in the hospital, I don't have to worry about making meals and running to appointments and driving here and driving there. And I just have more time just to be. And so, I get distracted with all of the things that are going on in life. And then I'm not as intentional about seeking after Christ.
And looking back, does that seem strange that a time when you were really close to God was one of the more challenging and, like a hard time in your life? Because it's like, no, it was really hard. That should be a spiritual low, right? Shouldn't it? But you're saying like, actually, I'm sure there was lows in that, but
there was lots of lows.
Right? There was something really good about it.
Yeah, and it took me a while. It was almost like, because he was in there for 2.5 months. And so it took me almost the first month of not doing any searching for God and doing it alone. And like, I didn't have God with me. I was in a new city with no one around me. So I was, Ian would come to visit. Well, he would live with us in the evenings and then go to work. But I was by myself most of the time. And so I just realized I can't do this alone. I need something different.
And so Craig talks about it, like I'm desperate for God.
Yeah, when you get to that level of that desperation of actually you realize I do need God. I cannot do this alone.
Yeah. So which is actually a good place to be, ironically.
It is. But it feels weird saying that, well, your son is struggling for their life in the hospital. That's when you're closest to God. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Right? That seems odd or off. But I think we recognize sometimes that's what it takes for us to stop filling our life with stuff that distracts us and thinking we can do without him.
Yep.
And we get faced. And if we could actually just shift that into like the regular stuff of life, that would be good, right?
Yeah.
Instead, we seem to need these like difficult times to remind us, which is what's kind of sad. It's kind of sad that's where we have to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of leads us into is a lot of the next question is sharing about a time when you were desperate for God, His presence, and how did you seek Him, and what did you learn about Him through that process? So I was in a very similar state at that point, but a very different direction. She was with Him all the time, and I was back and forth to Hamilton every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then working, maintaining the house, there was a lot that was happening, which made it difficult. And then so the stress builds up, and then I get there, and then there's more stress because something else has happened, or we need to do something different, or we need to do that. And I, of course, found myself on the hour-long ride back and forth, actually, screaming out to God in frustration, anger about why is this happening? We've been praying for the miracle, and we've seen no change. Right? There's been
the miracle you're asking for is not the miracle you're seeing.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not what we're
It's
seeing.
not what you're seeing.
It's not what we're seeing, and having those hard conversations with God and realizing that, this isn't the path that you're asking for, isn't the path that I have for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this very sense of just, you need to be patient and wait. It's not, I'm here, I'm with you, I'm looking after him, but it's not the way you expect it to be. Like it's kind of difficult to explain it other than like this idea of just wait and hold on. I'm here, trust me. It's just, it's a very interesting experience, especially when you're frustrated, angry, upset.
Yeah.
And you are desperate because you're seeing declines, you're seeing setbacks, you're seeing things where it's really hard. But it certainly gets to that point where all you have left is to trust God. That's what you have to do, is to trust him fully, because everything in this world just isn't enough, right?
Yeah.
And all you have is God. So the desperate moments certainly brought us closer to him.
Yeah.
I think it also brought us closer together instead of driving us apart.
Yeah. Because it could go either way for people.
It could go either way. Yeah, very simply either way. But then realizing that this was the path, this was the journey, it brought some peace to it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we come out of that, things are going well. I found myself not relying as much on God then.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, we're out of the hard stuff. God's got us through that. Okay, I can take it from here now. And I can run with it over having to continue to rely on him even in the good times. It seems like when things get good, you kind of forget that God's there, or forget his presence, or forget his provision.
Yeah.
But when you're at your lowest points, that's what you have to cling on to, because that's the only thing that can get you through.
That's interesting, because not only are you saying it's like, I need to rely on God, good and bad.
Yep.
But it's funny that it was so bad that you recognize I have no control over this. And God, I'm going to submit to what you've got planned and trust you.
Yep.
And I guess that's the other thing we abandon when things get good, isn't it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about what's God's plan anymore, because now we feel like we have wiggle room.
Yep.
I can go with my plan.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's, I think that's kind of the thing we need to remember, is we always need to be relying on him no matter what.
Yeah.
Because whether it's good or bad, it's something that we need to be doing, because it's so easy to get lost and forget. And all of a sudden we're kind of drifting off on our own.
And to make sure that it's his plan, and I'm okay with it's your plan.
Yeah, I can't say I was okay with it all the time.
I was not okay with his plan.
Okay,
but obviously at some point you had to make your peace with God about that.
We had to make peace with it, and it is difficult. It's certainly not easy, especially when you see pain and suffering. It is very hard to make peace with it.
Especially with your child.
It makes it very difficult because you want to fix them as a parent, right? And we all know that. You see an injury, you see something, you want to fix that to make it better. And when you completely can't fix it, there's nothing you can do. It makes it extremely hard just to watch it all happening and be completely left in God's hands to look after it. It is difficult. Yeah. It is certainly difficult.
So I guess coming out of this, we can't avoid the hard and sorrowful moments.
Mm-hmm.
No, definitely not.
And we can't really meet with God even in those moments. I think sometimes we get thinking it's in the mountaintop moments where things are really good. That's where we meet with God.
Yeah, we'll have the best connection and the best. Yeah.
When oftentimes it's the opposite.
Yeah.
And so being intentional about seeking God in both of those, what does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, I think it's the same. It's not in the joyful moments as often. Sometimes I remember sitting with my oldest son, like minutes after he was born, in the hallway. And I don't know, I guess it's intentional. They had this they had a chair set up at the end of a long hall, just outside of the operating room, because my wife had to have a C-section. And baby's born, clean the baby off, weigh them, takes just a couple of minutes. Here, Dad, and go out in the hallway and sit in that chair. And so you're out there by yourself. There's nobody around after you've just been in this surgery room.
Yeah.
And so it's in that quiet moment. It was like, wow, this is intense. Like, this life has been gifted to me by God. And that was one of the high moments where it was like, that was close to God.
Yeah.
Yep.
But usually the really good moments are not for me. And I think back on some of the most difficult moments where there was family upheaval or there was loss in some way. And that, those tended to be the times where I intentionally drew close to God.
Yep.
I was like, I need you, God. And so I'm going to make that effort. And that's the challenge Craig is talking about. Like, why wait?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, why put it aside to just those moments? And right, what you're talking about. Like, why wait for that? Why not do it all the time?
Yep.
Exactly. Wow. Time has flown by.
Yeah.
We've come to our end here with time together. But yeah, as Craig was saying, take the step now. As I said earlier about baby steps, it can be just a small step in the direction to grow and become closer to Christ. Because I see the change in my life with taking those little steps. And I'm sure you would see that as well. Those little increments can make it's just a small change. And we talk about the slight edge. Those little pieces bring you slowly closer, and eventually it just kind of ramps up, right?
Over time.
And that's really what it's about.
Yep.
And so I encourage you guys, if there's something you feel you need to take a step in, take that step. It can be scary. It can be difficult. Getting into the Bible is sometimes difficult because it's a lot. It's a big book. There's lots to read. But the Bible app, a great way to do that. Verse of the day, you can read that and just kind of sit and think about that for a couple minutes. Yeah. Not overwhelming by any means. Yeah. But a great way, and don't get down on yourself if you miss a day. I guess that's the big thing. That's where I kind of lost it. I missed a day. Like, oh, now it's all
it's all over. Yeah.
No, it's all about the training. Yeah. And okay, you missed a day. That's okay. Get back and just keep going. That's the past. Let's move on and keep into the next day. Yeah. So whatever that first step might be for you guys, that little baby step, I encourage you guys to take it. Certainly, we've seen that provision in our lives by doing these small things. And of course, we would love for you to have that same provision as well. So of course, we want to thank you guys for joining us. Thank you again for great talking over. Thank the tech team behind us. Of course, we're making this possible for you guys to be a part of each and every week. And of course, we want to remember, whoever finds God
finds life.